Rain poured heavily that morning as Ethan drove his old silver sedan through the city streets, his mind tangled between work deadlines and his son's lunchbox sitting forgotten on the kitchen counter. The city was half awake, commuters huddled under umbrellas, engines splashing through puddles. Ethan had been running late for weeks, ever since his company announced layoffs. As a single dad, every second mattered, every dollar counted, and every mistake felt like a step closer to losing it all. He adjusted his tie in the rear-view mirror, glancing briefly at the photograph hanging from the dash, him and his little boy, Noah, at the park, both smiling with ice cream dripping down their hands. That smile was the reason Ethan kept going, even when the world seemed determined to crush him. As he turned a corner, the screech of tires ripped through the sound of rain. A black SUV spun across the intersection and slammed into a concrete barrier. Without a thought, Ethan slammed his brakes, heart pounding. He saw smoke curling from under the hood, the driver slumped forward, blood trickling down her forehead. He leapt out of his car, rain soaking through his shirt. "Hey, can you hear me?" he shouted, pulling open the twisted door. The woman inside stirred slightly, groaning. She was wearing a military jacket, dog tags glinting against her neck. Her face was pale, streaked with blood and rain. "I'm fine," she muttered, her voice weak but steady. "No, you're not," Ethan said, trying to unbuckle her seatbelt. "You've been hit hard. Stay still. I can move," she insisted, wincing as she tried to sit up. "Just help me out before it explodes." The smell of fuel was sharp in the air. Ethan didn't hesitate. He hooked his arms under hers and pulled her out, half carrying her to the sidewalk. Just seconds later, the car gave a dull pop and smoke burst from the hood. Ethan laid her down carefully, his hands trembling. "What's your name?" he asked, wiping rain from her face. "Lena," she breathed. "Sergeant Lena Brooks, retired Marine." "Okay, Lena, you're going to be fine," he said, taking off his jacket and wrapping it around her shoulders. "I'm calling for help." By the time the ambulance arrived, Ethan's boss was already calling his phone for the third time. He ignored it. He rode with Lena to the hospital, helping her stay conscious, talking to her about anything, her time in the service, his son, his small apartment. When the paramedics finally took her inside, she grabbed his wrist weakly. "Thank you," she whispered. "It's nothing," he said. "Just get better." But when Ethan finally reached work, drenched, exhausted, and nearly 2 hours late, his supervisor didn't want to hear about it. "You missed the client meeting again, Ethan," said Mark, his manager, shaking his head. "We can't keep doing this." "I know, but there was an accident." "There's always something with you," Mark interrupted. "You're a good guy, but this company runs on results, not excuses. I've got orders from upstairs. You're done." The words hit Ethan harder than the rain. He stood there, stunned. "You're firing me, after 5 years." "I'm sorry," Mark said, avoiding his eyes. "HR will handle the paperwork." Ethan gathered his few things, his chest tight. He had done the right thing, hadn't he? Saved a life. But now he had no job, no paycheck, and rent due next week. That night, Noah noticed his father sitting silently at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of coffee gone cold. "Dad," Noah asked softly, "did you have a bad day?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Just one of those days, buddy. Want to play superheroes?" the boy said, trying to cheer him up. Ethan nodded. "Sure, maybe I'll be super dad today." They played until Noah fell asleep on the couch, his toy cape draped across him. Ethan covered him with a blanket and sat back, the weight of worry pressing on his shoulders. Days turned into weeks. Job applications went unanswered. He sold a few things, his old watch, a guitar, to keep food on the table. Then one afternoon, as he was walking home from the grocery store, he saw a familiar face across the street. It was Lena, wearing a long coat, moving carefully but with the same sharp presence. She spotted him and smiled. "Ethan," he blinked in surprise. "Lena, you're up and walking, mostly healed," she said. "I've been looking for you." "Looking for me?" he repeated, confused. "You disappeared before I could thank you properly," she said. "You saved my life." "I just did what anyone would," he said modestly. "Not everyone would stop," she replied firmly. "Especially when it cost them something." Ethan hesitated. "You heard about that?" "I asked around. The paramedics told me you stayed with me the whole time. I found out you lost your job that day." He shrugged. "Yeah, well, life's not always fair." Lena smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but sometimes, it surprises you." She reached into her bag and handed him a card. I work with a Veterans Outreach Foundation now. We help train and hire civilians too. I mentioned your name to someone on our board, they want to meet you. Ethan blinked. Wait, you're offering me a job. I'm offering you a chance, she said. You helped me when I was helpless. Let me do the same. A week later, Ethan sat in a sleek glass office, nervously straightening his tie again. The man interviewing him, a retired colonel turned CEO, listened intently as Ethan described his background in logistics and management. You come highly recommended by Sergeant Brooks, the colonel said, smiling. She doesn't give praise easily. I'm honored, Ethan said. Well, consider this your new beginning, the colonel said, extending his hand. Welcome to Valor Tech Industries. For the first time in months, Ethan felt like he could breathe again. When he called Lena later to thank her, she laughed. Don't thank me yet, wait until you see the first paycheck. From that day on, their friendship grew naturally. She would visit his small apartment, help Noah with his school projects, and sometimes cook dinner when Ethan worked late. Noah adored her. He called her Sergeant Lena, though she always laughed and told him to drop the title. One evening, the three of them sat on the couch watching an old superhero movie. Lena's arm was in a sling from her recent therapy session, and Noah was cuddled beside her. Dad, Noah said suddenly, is Lena part of our family now? Ethan froze, glancing at her. She smiled softly, her eyes glimmering. Well, she said gently, families aren't always about blood, kiddo. Sometimes, they're about who shows up when you need them most. Ethan couldn't speak. For years, he'd been carrying the weight of doing everything alone, since Noah's mother left when the boy was barely 2. But now, something was changing. As weeks passed, Lena became a constant presence. She pushed him to believe in himself again, to rebuild, to dream. Together, they started a community project through Valor Tech, helping wounded veterans and single parents find work. Ethan managed logistics, Lena handled training and mentorship. It became more than a job, it became a purpose. One afternoon, while working at the foundation's new center, Ethan found Lena outside, watching the sunset. Penny for your thoughts, he asked. She smiled. Just thinking how strange life is. One moment you're in a wreck, bleeding and scared. The next, you meet someone who changes everything. He stepped closer. You mean me? She nodded slowly. You remind me there's still good in the world. After the war, I didn't believe that anymore. Ethan looked at her with quiet warmth. You changed my life too, Lena. More than you know. The silence between them was soft, filled with unspoken understanding. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel broken. He felt whole. Months later, Valor Tech hosted a public event to honor civilians who'd made a difference. Ethan was on stage beside Lena, who introduced him as the man who had saved her life and inspired her to build something new. The crowd applauded, and Ethan's eyes welled up when he saw Noah clapping proudly from the front row, holding a small handmade sign that said, "My dad's a hero." After the ceremony, Lena took Ethan aside. You deserve every bit of this, she said softly. So do you, he replied. I still can't believe how everything turned out. Sometimes, she said with a smile, the universe rewards a good heart. Ethan looked at her, the lights glinting in her eyes. So, what happens next? She grinned. Well, we keep helping people. And maybe, if you're lucky, I'll let you take me to dinner. Ethan laughed for the first time in days, a real, deep laugh. I'd say that's a fair trade. That night, as they walked out together, the world didn't seem so heavy anymore. The rain had stopped, and the city lights shimmered in the puddles like 1,000 tiny stars. Ethan took Lena's hand, hesitant at first, but firm when she didn't pull away. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? She asked. For proving that sometimes, losing everything is just the start of finding what really matters. She squeezed his hand. Guess we both found that out the hard way. As they walked down the street, side by side, the sound of laughter echoed softly behind them, Noah running to catch up, his small voice cutting through the night. Hey, wait for me, he called, and for the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel like a single dad anymore. He felt like part of something bigger, something whole. A man who had lost his job, his hope, and nearly his faith in life had found it all again in the most unexpected place, beside a wounded Marine who refused to give up. Two broken people who saved each other without even realizing it. And from that day on, every morning felt like a second chance. Because sometimes, heroes don't wear uniforms or capes. Sometimes, they just stopped their car in the rain.